This is Marcus Hollinger, and this is the 116 Live Show on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius XM Channel 154. If you're just joining us, this is our very first episode. My co-host A. Saris and I are talking with Ben Washer and Lecrae, founders of Reach Records. We're talking about 20 years of legacy. We're talking about success. We're talking about disappointment. So let's just jump in, bro. Let's start with Ben for people, because Ben, this is very special for you to appear like this. You really, as a co-founder and co-owner of Reach, you've really kind of maintained sort of a background type of presence. So for those who don't really know you, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Ben Washer started 20 years ago with Reach Records.
Sheesh.
One of the founders. Met Lecrae a couple of years before that, and we've been doing it ever since.
That's crazy. 20 years.
20 years. And for those who have been living under a rock or hiding themselves from all things, who is this superstar?
First of all, let me just say, I don't think I ever used the word inaugural, so I just wanted to say it.
Go ahead, say it, man.
The inaugural.
It's the first time for everything.
Ignorant eggnog.
Hey, Marcus, spell inaugural.
Oh.
Ain't gonna lie.
I'm just glad I got to use it. So 2023, I've already got to use that word.
Nice.
Yeah, man, I am fortunate to be able to create music within the environment that is Reach Records, that was established 20 years ago. It's actually been a great place of solace and community inside these walls. Not without its issues.
No stress, no issues.
Yeah, but
Perfect
man.
ride all the way.
But it's been a blessing, man, to be able to do the things that we've done, and outside of Grammys and Billboard charts, to inspire people all over the world to be unashamed of their faith.
For sure.
That's amazing.
I love that. And again, for those who are listening in, we really want to be able to say that, this is something very special. It's our first, I know I used the word inaugural earlier. This is our first episode of the 116 Life. It's a brand new foray into us broadcasting live with Holy Culture on Sirius XM. And what a better way to start this new program.
No, for sure. I think it's super cool because I don't know if people get to hear these conversations in a way that they have before. I think it's super refreshing. And honestly, having been watching the building, my man stays in the shadows. So I think they're going to be in for a really dope conversation.
Yeah, you guys are in for a treat. And Lecrae kind of alluded to this or hinted at this, that this is 20 years. This year marks 20 years of Reach Records.
It's crazy.
I mean, how many record labels still standing?
I mean,
honestly, when you really break down in hip hop or whatever,
it's a big deal. It's a pretty big deal. And so on this show, we want to cover faith, culture, music, all things that kind of fall under those branches.
For sure.
So who better than to bring the pioneers of, the pioneering leaders, if you will, of faith, culture, music to be our very first.
Ben's like, man, don't put that,
yeah,
don't put that weight on me.
You
Take
can
that glory off me, bro.
You can kind of see it in their eyes. They're like, yo, Marcus, you are really juicing this thing. But no, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal to have y'all on here. So, we wanted to kind of shape this conversation and for our listeners to really give them a past, present, almost future trajectory of Reach Records and really be able to kind of put this story down almost for legacy.
Yeah.
To get this story with y'all, have it down, have it out there, recorded, so that, as time goes on, people can look back and see. So let's just really jump right in on trying to discover the beginning. Let's start with the beginning or the origin of Reach Records. Now, I've been here almost 10 years, and, the way I kind of have it, legend has it that Reach Records started because you all were working at a camp together and created a song for the camp. So why don't y'all bring us in on that moment? Maybe clarify, is that where it began?
Preach
Like,
as you know it, but there's an origin story
there's
to
a-
that
yeah, I wanna
origin
hear it.
story.
Okay, let's
hear it.
dive in. Let's dive in there. What was the first almost like inkling that music partnership like what was that first moment where it was like, okay, we're doing something together?
You got to talk about how you even met Chris Carricker.
Okay, so if we take it all the way back, one of my buddies from college, Chris Carricker, and I joked about starting a record label, kind of half serious. We were at a friend's wedding. This was like
How old were y'all?
03, I think.
Yeah.
And it was to, the idea was like we loved music. We didn't know what we were talking about. But we were just like, oh, that'd be cool to start a record label. And so this was after program. Yeah,
a
it was
little.
after.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
it was
little.
right after.
It was a little in between, like moving toward the end of the program, I believe.
Yeah.
But anyway, go
What's,
ahead.
what's program?
All right, so
Okay.
in 2002, Lecrae and I started this program in Denton, Texas, where we went to go study the Bible with this pastor. So I become a Christian in college.
Same.
Lecrae got serious about his faith in college, and so we both wanted to learn the Bible. We didn't know each other. And so I get there the first day, and Lecrae's sitting next to me in this class. It's like 40 people,
Okay.
That's
and we're just
amazing.
there just to learn.
Yeah.
So it's 6 to 8 in the morning from like
Sheesh.
August
Nine
to,
months.
Y'all
to
were
May.
y'all were serious about Jesus.
Yeah.
So not CHH hours, basically.
Right. So we're getting up early, we're doing that, and then we're also volunteering at a halfway house for kids together. So we would do work there, we'd tutor them, we'd throw church for them. Lecrae, would do songs for them. And so it's just real organic. Like we were just
Gotcha.
connecting off of our faith and love for music and all that. And I worked summers at Kids Across America, which is a sports camp for, what do you say, urban kids?
Yeah.
At the
the proper
time,
term now?
we said inner
At
city.
the
Inner
time, you said
city.
inner
Yeah,
city.
but
Inner
Urban-
city is now
urbanites.
hipsters.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I know, right?
So it's a youth camp.
So it was a youth camp.
Yeah.
And it was out in the middle of nowhere, but I was in charge of all the entertainment at camp.
Oh,
And
I know
so
that.
we had to do a theme song. And so I talked to Lecrae, and he did a theme song, and it turned out to be Crossover, which is on his first album.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So Craig, for almost to kind of bring you in here. So as it sounds like y'all are sitting next to each other in this class, this Bible study class. Ben's got this other thing going on with this camp. They need a theme song. He talks to you.
Right.
Now, were you doing music before that? Like,
Yeah.
what? Why talk to Lecrae? Out of all
Okay,
people?
so there was a campus ministry that I was a part of. First it was Impact, then it turned into Plumb Line, and basically it was like, this young African American campus ministry, and I was like the unofficial DJ for all of our events.
Oh,
So
okay.
Word.
I was always scouring, trying to find the dopest, Christian hip hop music.
Okay.
And then I did the theme song for our campus ministry. So I would, I wanted to produce more than anything. I was like, I rapped as a kid, but I like Pharrell and produce.
Did you have any songs that you had rapped and recorded by then, or you weren't?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were terrible.
Well, and it's
Temporary
I still have them.
oh,
Hey,
maybe we should
have
bring 'em
to-
out
Oh,
one day.
little lost
I
tapes.
mean,
might
yeah,
have to-
listen.
Maybe for the
might have to-
20th,
we
maybe
might
for
have
the
to- we can
20th
bring those
celebration.
Let the people
We
hear
go
these
into the
terrible
vault.
songs.
We might have to, we can
could
bring
just-
those out.
we could NFT or I'm just kidding.
So you're DJ. So you already in ministry, DJing,
Right.
curating,
Yeah.
producing.
Yeah.
And Ben hits you up, yo. Hey,
Well, somebody told me about Ben because the sports camp was like all the hood kids from around the country would come to the sports camp. And
KAA.
KAA. And Ben was over the programs, and Ben really loves affecting the culture, like seeing the culture engage and move. And so he was studying, and it was like, what songs work? And so he was keyed up on the latest in like Christian hip hop that these kids would gravitate toward. He put me on new stuff. I was like, I never heard of these kids out.
Oh wow.
Those Memphis rappers and
Oh,
man.
word.
Yeah, like he was putting me on stuff, and so
FTF.
yeah, all of the FTF from New Orleans. So my man Anthony was like, "You got to meet Ben Washer. Like he knows you're big into it. He's big into Christian hip hop.
okay.
Ben's big in. Y'all got to meet." So I'm expecting like,
Wow.
yeah, I mean,
Oh,
Wow.
you didn't know Ben.
I didn't know what he looked like.
You
I
didn't
know.
have a.
I didn't have yeah. Cause
So you then you meet Ben.
and I was like,
That's
this
Ben.
is Ben for real.
That's wild.
I know you said look for Ben. Is there another Ben?
I was like, oh, this is it. But he knew his stuff and he was passionate about it. And he was like, yeah. But it wasn't, I mean, he obviously loved music, but it was more like he just loved infecting the culture. He loved like seeing people like grow, change, develop. And it was that. And doing it in a creative way was like that was his thing. So
Yeah.
it was like, man, you know, we hit it off just from sitting there talking.
I love that. And so then it kind of sounds like there was this opportunity to do the song for
Right.
the camp.
Crossover.
So kind of bring us back into that moment.
Yeah, so I remember listening to my voicemail at the time, and you put the beat to crossover on the voicemail, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
And he recorded the song. We took it to camp. It was a hit at camp, and I had packed CDs with some of his old songs that shall never be heard again. But back then they were nice.
You had a
And
little
so-
EP together. You had a little.
My rap name was Vision.
What do you mean? What do you
Vision.
mean by
Oh
that?
wow!
Really?
You're telling on
Oh,
yourself.
Whoa.
Dog.
But I had made CDs, like burned CDs, and then had somebody design a cover and slipped it in there, and we sold them out the camp store, and that went on all summer, and it was great. And then my buddy and I, Chris Carricker, we talked about starting a record label at the end of that summer.
Okay.
And it was thinking of Lecrae, but also thinking of some other friends that did some like, you know, acoustic kind of
Okay.
worship rock stuff.
Right.
So we prayed about it, talked about it, and then in I think it was October we registered the company with the state of Tennessee because he was in Nashville.
So, okay, you registered. I have a question because this is what prompted the name Reach Records? Because I feel like record label names are extremely important, and I felt like the name is just iconic. Like it just
It
goes
was just
like
super
what.
Christian.
And
What-
was that?
Did you know? Did you? Yeah.
No,
Well, then,
I mean
and
the
also,
truth.
was the one that you registered? Was that Reach Records?
Yes, yeah, that was
Okay,
the
so then
first one.
So where did that name?
So there was in my journal, I remember the page, I had all these names of possible names of record labels. And so we were just trading ideas back and forth, and that one kept coming up to
you
the
and
top.
Lecrae were trading.
Him and Chris.
And Chris.
Oh, Chris. Okay.
And so Reach just kind of kept coming back to the top of the pile. So we
what
went
was some?
with that.
What were some others? What were some good ones that didn't
I
make
wish
the
I
cut?
could
Vision
remember.
Records.
Vision.
I wish I could remember.
So you
That's
registered. You registered the company in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And what was going through your? You know, you prayed about it, had the name. You went. What were your expectations when you registered?
Honestly, it wasn't. I mean, we did like spreadsheets on how this thing could perform. We had no idea. We had no experience.
It's a little
I mean, you would
Excel
laugh at those things.
Yeah.
They were so naive. I had no idea about
Right.
how hard it would actually be, or you know, what really goes into it. But we had enough passion and desire, and really, it was about impact. It was about what this music could do in the culture, and it was about getting behind like how God can use music in people's lives. And so we just went for it. We had no idea what we were doing.
Now, how did?
No, it was the idea for it to be hip hop as the leading thing, or
it was both.
okay, just Christian music essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it ended up not working out with the other guys.
Okay.
And so
The hip hop was working.
the hip hop was working, but it was also kind of like where my heart was.
Okay.
And so then we signed, after Lecrae, we signed Tadashi. Was that right? See the
Yeah.
next one?
Yep.
Lecrae's roommate.
Yep. Tashi was my roommate.
That's so random.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we signed Trip Lee.
So were you a partner?
This is all in 2004.
Were you a partner at this time?
So I'm gonna give you some real game. This is a testament to, and he probably don't want me to tell it, but I'm gonna tell it.
Has it ever been said public what you about to say?
I don't think so.
We getting for 116 Life, y'all.
I don't think
we
so.
getting an exclusive.
He probably don't want us public, but this is a testament to and it's how I wish that people would do business, right? It's unheard of, it's unprecedented. I got signed to two other 20-year-old, 22, 23-year-olds, and we're putting out this music. I'm basically A&R, and I got my roommate, I got this young kid I'm discipling, I got my other homeboy, Sho Baraka, who I'm in school with. I'm going to St. Louis, I'm grabbing Thizzle and Flame, and we're putting together all this stuff. And Ben is like, it's not right that all of this effort and energy that you're contributing to the label is like, you're doing all this stuff, but you're just an artist. You need to be a partner.
Wow.
And he was like, I want you to be a partner in the label.
That's crazy.
Now, I mean, how would you?
Yeah, I mean, so Chris ended up wanting to stay in Dallas because we were moving to Memphis.
Yeah.
Chris was going to stay in Dallas and sort of bow out, focus on advertising career that he was doing. And so we were all moving to Memphis together to go for it. And so Lecrae stepped in
As partner at that point.
Yeah.
And so so now we kind of have the core team. You mentioned Ben and Lecrae as partners. You mentioned Tadashi, who was your roommate. You mentioned Sho Baraka, this kid you were discipling.
Trip
Lee. And is that, at that point, was that the core?
Yeah. And I mean, that was the core, but then I think we didn't know. We didn't have we were just like, whatever. Yeah, we just going for it.
It was like, boom, we got some artists, we got a thing. So at what point?
It was good because we didn't know enough about what we were doing to know if we were succeeding or failing. It all felt like success.
Every step
Yeah.
we never taken that step, so it was a win.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what was maybe one of the first steps that felt like a tangible success?
Man, I mean, it's funny. I have this memory in my head. When you ask that, this memory pops up of going to Baton Rouge. And we were in the hood in Baton Rouge, off Gardier Lane, I think. That's where I'm from. And we walked around and handed out flyers for people to come to the show we were doing at this like community center. And we get there and there's like 30, 40 people maybe. And Lecrae stands on a little wooden box. And just goes for it. And that's what's great about Lecrae. It doesn't matter if there's 10,000 people in a room or 10 people. He goes hard the whole time. Anyway, I just remember feeling like on top of the world, like this is the most successful thing.
Yo, that is amazing.
So
All of that was great.
I think because he hadn't been poisoned by success yet, we were able to just celebrate every win. Yeah.
Oh, I remember one of the things that really was a big thing for me that I'll never forget. My wife wasn't my wife at the time. We weren't even dating. She was just my homie. And I remember being at Chris's apartment in Dallas. We were mailing CDs. We were labeling them and mailing them around because people had to order them, and we were the distribution. So we would literally physically mail them to people. And I thought that was so dope that we were all doing this. But the wildest thing was one of the addresses that I had to write was to Australia. And I was like, someone in Australia.
Y'all was shipping CDs to Australia.
Shipping fees was hitting though.
That, to me, that was success.
Like that. So I have a question. From an artistic standpoint, like how and when did you get the 116 logo? When was it created? Like, because these are like iconic art pieces to me. And
So
then I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, how did that come?
116 was a thing before Reach Records was a thing.
Okay, say more about that.
So Lecrae, BJ, who else?
Initially, it was just me and BJ.
Okay, they would go down to this area in Dallas and just share the gospel in the streets. It was like the clubs down in Dallas. Anyway, they were just like living their faith out. And I remember, I can't remember when y'all called it 116 Click.
Do you remember?
I remember, I don't know exactly, but I remember like, we was just, we're like in college, a lot of suburban kids, but we're coming from a more like hood background. So you're trying to like integrate some of that into this, and it's like we're gonna be a Christian clique, you know what I mean? Like 116 clique, and we went to Hobby Lobby, got some iron-on shirts with like 116 clique on it, and it was just like we would be on campus, like
sharing the gospel.
We the 116 clique.
Yeah, sharing the gospel. It was about sharing the gospel.
Okay,
And
it wasn't about rapping initially.
Yeah, no, it was about.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I went to a camp, that the college ministry did, and the preacher there was Ambassador from Cross Movement.
Oh wow.
So he was preaching, and then I was a fan, and I was like, "Can you sign my Bible?" And he signed his name, and then he put Romans 1:16, and I was like, "Huh, what's this?" He would put different scriptures on different, whatever. And I looked it up. I was like, "Oh, snap!"
Shout out Ambassador.
Yeah,
shout out Ambassador. That's dope.
Unashamed. 116 click. And I told BJ about it. I went and got the shirts. I was like, we represent. All I needed was another gang member.
So I kind of want to ask this because they're underneath everything. So you got the label, you got the 116 click. The ministry is kind of running up underneath this in Lecrae. Ben kind of said it, whether it was 10 or 1,000, whatever, you was just always going for it. And Ambassador signs your Bible, and now you get these T-shirts made, and you said it, we going out sharing the gospel. I'm curious for you, Lecrae, what was sort of going on with you where it was this thing that's like, I gotta go share? Because it's just almost like this like scrappy, like, I gotta get this out, you know what I'm saying? I gotta share. But then you're pulling on creativity, art. Like, what was kind of pushing you, you know what I'm saying, to really want to carry yourself that way, if you will?
I was younger, newer in the faith. It was fresh. We were really influenced by this evangelist at the time. Hell's best kept secret was Ray Comfort, yeah. And his big thing was the gospel. It was like, he'd be on the streets in Venice Beach and he'd be sharing people. So he's a huge influence on us at the time because, we're on a college campus.
Right.
And to us, I don't know, it was just everything was centered around evangelism. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So we were just trying to think of like, what does this look like in an urban context? Because people aren't getting this. And I was like, nobody ever shared this with me. And nobody ever came to my neighborhood and told me about this. So I was like, we need to go to the club. We need to go to the hood. We need to go. So we would do freestyle battle. We would battle people in the streets and then like share the gospel with them. We got spit on and we was lines at the club and we were like, we would pretend. It was so crazy and it was silly, but we was trying to be elaborate. And it would be like, I would pretend I didn't know God. BJ would be trying to share with me in front of the whole line at the club.
Oh, wow.
I was duping him, bro.
Yeah, and I'd be like, I ain't trying to hear this, bro.
You
know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. And then I remember one time a dude was like, he got mad at me for trying to share with somebody, a girl or something. And he was like, yo, man, shut up. No one wants to hear this. And he spit at me.
Word.
And that's how I know I was saved.
Did you turn the other cheek?
Because I turned the other cheek, for real. That's how I knew I was saved. Because I was like, boy.
This is not, could you do that today?
Nah, I don't. I think I'm.
You'd wash his feet today, wouldn't you?
I don't know what I would do.
I feel
But
you.
the point is just we were so zealous.
Yeah.
Just zealous, and and everything worked together. Ben was in he was working in his closet, right? Is that where you was?
No, I mean, it was like a
office.
It was like out in the country in this ranch place. And
That's
I had a
right.
room with some.
When you designed this, boy?
Yeah.
Were you trying, to design a logo? What prompted
I don't
you to
remember
even
why.
do
I
that?
just remember like 116 was like this rallying thing in Denton, and we felt like we wanted it to be a part of what we were doing. I just was like, made a logo for it and showed it to him one day in his apartment, and he liked it.
I was the A&R. Ben was the creative director.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's kind of how.
Which is it's kind of cool. I love those terms, A&R, creative director, are kind of in the mix. You know what I mean? But also I think what I'm kind of enamored by is there was almost this thing that was out in front. You hear a lot about founder stories, and a lot of what they're trying to start a business, and they're trying to figure out, how can I make a business, set it up and be successful. But it really sounds like there was something else going on where, and I think Lecrae, you kind of talked about it. Y'all were trying to put the gospel out in a way that people could get it.
Like if you look at the first Real Talk CD, and you can get those liner notes. I mean, I have no idea where one would be. It's probably $10,000 on eBay right now. But anyway,
maybe
you get the liner notes. You look in there, and there's a thing about 116 click. So we were really pushing that because we wanted people to like be motivated and encouraged and like be a part of what was going on.
Yeah, to set like some context, and shout out to my guy Dr. Bobby Manning for like helping paint this picture better. But you got to think like we're like the oldest millennials, youngest Gen Xers, right? The Gen X generation was about making everything Christian club, Christian, like they wanted everything to be Christian, like but they became the gatekeepers of it. So that Gen X era, those folks were like, we're gonna do Christian rock and we're gonna do Christian this, and they were creating all these things, but they were the gatekeepers. Millennials and us being like the youngest, the oldest millennials, we're more like, well, we don't really care about creating a Christian club. We just want to be as Christian as we can be in these environments.
Got you.
So we'll go to the club, but be very Christian at the club.
Okay.
Got
We'll
you.
get within hip hop and be very Christian within hip hop.
Got
We
you.
weren't really concerned with gatekeeping. We were more concerned with infiltrating.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying?
Got
And
you.
so I think our mindset was just, how do we infiltrate culture, infiltrate society, infiltrate art world. And so that was kind of more the mindset. It wasn't about like trying to create this alternative world as much as it was like infiltration.
I love that paradigm of infiltration and gatekeeping. It's sort of like that generational kind of like timestamp.
Right.
I'm curious for you all, as you kind of think about where things began, and there's so much in that, right? Like already, like we're gonna have to have y'all back to layer this story some more, because there's so much that we just couldn't get to. But maybe zooming ahead a bit, can you think about recent moments? Bring us into recent moments. What was a recent moment in the 20-year journey that made you all feel hopeful about where this thing is and where this thing is going?
Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, what comes to mind is the Unashamed tour we did earlier this year. So we had the whole label out on tour, and it was seeing the new artists really shine and seeing them really connect with everybody. Yeah. And you're watching that transition from like old guard to new guard. That was really cool to see that.
Yeah.
Is there a moment within that show or within that tour where you remember thinking to yourself, this is the new guard, there's a transition happening?
I don't know if a moment. I mean, Few starting off his.
Oh yeah, yeah. That Few thing was a
There's
moment.
just so many good moments.
Yeah.
You know, RG really capturing the heart of everybody in there. Holvey, I mean, Wande. I mean, it's just they were all killing it.
Yeah, I think for me it's like the return. It's like full circle back to just authentic faith. And when I see that, you know, just leaving Nigeria with Limo and just it was just so pure, you know, just like sitting with his pastor talking and him dreaming and it's like, man, I remember this, just this purity of wanting change. And you know, he's not thinking about like, he's just like, yeah, they flew me out. I'm like, they flew you out like on their schedule? He's like, yeah, I just jumped on a flight that they booked. I said, no, you You got to tell them when you want to get. They're gonna fly you at 6 a.m. and they're gonna put you on the cheapest flight. But he's not thinking about any of that. He's just like, I just want to serve. I just want to, so it's just like,
that's
golly.
beautiful. That's beautiful. And for those who are listening in and may not know this, Limo Blaze is one of the newer artists on the label who was signed last year. He's from Nigeria and currently living in the UK. So that's who Lecrae is talking about there. And Craig, I just want to maybe tap in on something that you said there. You said this return to authentic faith.
Yeah.
That's such a that's such a pregnant statement.
Hey,
Could you say a little bit more about what you mean by a return?
Yeah, I mean, like Ben was saying earlier, that people haven't been like, we initially weren't like burned by success, or I think, you have a burden to impact people, and then these arbitrary goals start popping up, and they look great, but to what end? You know what I'm saying? It's like, what now? Why do we want this? Like, what is the goal of this? Like, you can make up something. You can say, well, we want to win the best studio award because it helps people see that. You know what I'm saying? And it's not that that's wrong. It's just that you get deterred so quickly. It just easily deters you from the main thing. And I think, it's like, man, that was never the goal. The goal was never to be the biggest, the best, the fastest, the most impressive. The goal was to reach people and change the way that they see the world, And
I have a question about that. Speaking of the goal, 'cause I know you guys obviously steward a lot.
Yeah.
20 years, record label, fame, business. Like, what are some of the things that specifically around Reach Records that, I know we have a lot of positive things we can share, and we're all adoring all the things you guys have built over the 20 years, but what are some things that makes you kind of scared, keeps you up at night about Reach Records, concerned? And I just wanted to because I feel like people publicly probably don't see what that feels like to, I guess, carry all this burden, you know what I'm saying? And even as employees, we can, be here and have this conversation, but I'm at the end of the day, this is something you guys founded and are essentially held accountable to steward. What are some things that presently, this keeps me up at night, or this puts a little fear in me about having all this, Safe space.
What are you looking at me for? My deepest fear is no. I think there's two sides to it. There's vision fear. There's concern that we won't fulfill the mission, vision. We can get sidetracked from that, or as we bring on the new, is it going to be the same thing? What's it going to look like? We had this thing for so long. Does it need to shift a little bit in order to accommodate what's happening now? Yeah. Then there's business stuff. You're never on the other side of risk. So if you're trying to grow and you're trying to push, you're always going into the next year what do we need to do to press the pedal down some more? Yeah. And that means you have to deal with things like budgets and income and revenue and staff and, all this stuff. You have to steward all that too. So that's not just a walk in the park, And
speaking of sort of budgets, impact, kind of business trends and things like that, there was something that I was reading about coming out of last year into this year. Was sort of there's this large market change that's kind of happening where for maybe the last, 2 or 3 years, it's 3 or 4 years, what? Yeah, maybe the last 3 or 4 years, hip hop had kind of reached this place where it was the dominating genre across all music, but maybe in the last year or so, it's kind of starting to, peter off. It's kind of how it's being portrayed. So as independent hip hop label owners, and kind of even referencing the genesis of hip hop kind of being the heartbeat, is that something that what's y'all's reaction to that outside can't control that type of thing in terms of mission, vision, business,
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that a few days ago. It's like if you look at the top of the Spotify charts, there's not much hip hop compared to what it used to be. It used to just be like boom, 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 and now it's like a whole bunch of other stuff and some hip hop sprinkled in.
Yeah.
And so you go, all right, what's shifting? What's going on here? It doesn't mean hip hop's not big. I mean, it's like country music's not up there either, and it's big too.
No doubt.
So it's not something to be like scared about, but it also means like, where is culture going? What are people into? You know, is there other types of music we need to entertain? And we have, you know, we've signed some of that before. So
Yeah, I would agree.
Country artist on the way is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Country song on the way.
Country album.
Reach Records. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And even outside of country, it's like Limo Blaze being signed it's Afrobeat. It's not hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
did you guys see, like, I think the Limo Blaze signing is a big moment. Did you guys, I know, kind of talking back to when you got that CD sending that CD to Australia, did you guys see, like, back then, someone being on the roster with international footprint, even doing Afro, like, this is it, like, presently, is that like a wow factor? And, like, you know, talk a little bit about the present day of having like an international artist and what that means for like the mission and what we're trying to build and all that.
Yeah, I think on my healthiest days, I want to see the entire world impacted with, like, I want to see the truth of God, like, just immersed in their space and culture. Right. On my unhealthiest days, I just want global domination.
Yeah. That's that 20 years speak and that comfortability to sort of be honest about that. But I do think that's interesting to what Ace has kind of called out, is that at the very beginning, you know, you were shipping CDs to Australia from your house. And now, in more of the present days, things have happened where, there's an artist who's not even in America that's signed, who's, you know, producing from a whole nother country.
Right.
There have been Latin, you know, we did a whole Latin, you guys participated in a whole Latin project that was a collaboration with folks out of Puerto Rico. There are these sort of these bigger moments, you know, where the music has been in Netflix movies and Lecrae at the beginning of, I think it was 2020, your PlayStation launched their new console with the Spider-Man game using 2 tracks.
That's kind of wild.
Of your music. So at least in terms of present day,
that's crazy.
How is that? And you mentioned it on my healthiest days versus sort of, you know, this other tension. How are you kind of processing those larger impact moments and maybe kind of keeping the mission and vision in mind?
I've had too many unhealthy days. So not to say I'll never be unhealthy like that again, but I just have seen the detriment, and the beauty in the health is far more like rewarding. It's just far more rewarding. So for me, it's like, that's cool. I appreciate it, but then the question I'm always asking is, to what end? Like, what's the why?
What end? I like how
you know what I'm saying? To what end? Like, what is the goal here?
Yeah.
You know? And so is it just like this functional, you know, like, monetary thing, numbers thing? Like, we create these arbitrary goals, and it's like, why do we want this?
Yeah.
We want to sell 2 million albums. Why?
Yeah.
Because we want to, man. What's up?
I'm saying so. So for me, it's like, when there's a real vision and mission behind some of these things, I get more excited. It's more rewarding when you're realizing, like, you're providing opportunities for people in Puerto Rico, and that, you know, the vision and mission is spreading, and just like you know, what God is doing through this music is happening while you're asleep in other parts of the world is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, just to be able to to play a part in that.
Yeah. I mean, it's truly special. I can say from a personal perspective, real quick. The gospel came to me in a radical way when I was in college, and I remember it was the Rehab album that was probably already out for some years by the time it got to me, but I didn't know Christian hip hop was a thing. And so I remember on days where I couldn't get out of bed without listening to that music because my whole world had just gotten flipped upside down. So I'm like, man, I can't even walk, think, talk, whatever, and now, fast forward, that for me, that was something like 12 years ago, very close to the time I started to work here. And in that same time, I mean, I think I can count maybe 6 plaques. And for those who don't know what that means, that's about 6 times we've sold at least 500,000 albums. And in one case, 1 million. And so that's like, just for my short time. But for you all, and Ben, you kind of mentioned it, there have been, Coming In Hot was the top song on Instagram in 2020 for a period of time. Lecrae, you have now won 2 Grammys, and I mean things just continue to sort of post and build. Ben, you mentioned vision. With all of those accolades and the shared success, how would you all communicate the vision that's kind of keeping those things intact? Like, what is the vision that's, from you all's perspective, that's keeping those things in context?
Yeah, I mean, the vision is what it always has been from the beginning. And we talked about this. We kind of framed it in 2009 or 10 or something like that. But we said, it's to change the way people see the world. So we want that, the way you see life, to have a biblical, Christ-centered, God-fearing sort of lens on it. And so that's been the mission. And there's all these other things coming at you that are like dangling the temptation to go chase all the time. And so the challenge is like keeping an ever-growing machine on track, your own heart, but also just kind of the whole building and everything going on.
And even like a song, this is kind of like, some critics may be like, hey, a song like Coming In Hot, viral, utility, Kim Kardashian, Instagram Reels, how does that song, which is lighthearted and fun, like, how to speak about how the vision of what you guys are doing and maybe the content of that song, the success of that song, how do those things reconcile? Because I think sometimes the Outposts can look at that song, that success, and all these plaques and everything, and look at the start and say, well, hold up, that something ain't, that is not what, it sounds like what you guys have set out to do. Even though obviously we all benefit. Like, tell me about the dynamics and the success of that song and how the vision still is maintained through something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, those songs happen. It's like Christians have fun. Sometimes we just goof off and we're not like reading the Bible to each other. So that comes out.
I feel you. Yeah.
That can come out in music. I think there's this pressure back in the day where everything had to like share the complete message of God every song, or you kind of worried that it was going out there without. And now we're a little more flexible. But even Coming In Hot, I mean, that was just created for a summer playlist project.
I think it was a tour. I think it was the Lecrae Andy tour. Yeah.
So it wasn't like engineered for social viral. I mean, it was just something authentic and fun that ended up taking off.
Christians have fun, basically.
Yeah. So, I mean, those things happen, and it could be easy to say, all right, we're shifting everything just to try to make 100 more Coming In Hots because of all the success we've had from it.
I've tried.
But you have to.
They ain't hot yet.
It's not that easy.
It's not easy, but also that's not our heart. Like that's part of the soup, but it's not the whole mission. So we can't let ourselves get off track just because of success. That's easier said than done because it's really nice to get a plaque and to get revenue from that and all that.
I think it's also a testament to you, Lecrae, like having artists. I mean, artists that you've shepherded, that you've A&R'd, that you've empowered, are like writing like hit making records, essentially. Like Andy, like you've essentially, developed those talents. Even like currently, I mean, obviously you said you were the youngest or the oldest millennial. We ain't gonna say how old, you know what I'm saying? But kind of where you are right now, presently, the current roster, what is exciting for you in the future? Like, talk about Wande, Hovey, Limo Blaze, 1K Feud, What Up RG, like,
I love that.
Present day Reach Records. How do you feel about the trajectory and the future of Reach Records in the hands of the most recent signings? I don't want to say younger, but just the most recent signings. Like, how do you feel? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, the future is as bright as they want to shine. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really, they can have it. I really would open up everything to allow them to carry this torch forward as far as they want to take it. It just really depends on what they want.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm excited for them. They are so talented. Their talent level is unmatched. It's crazy. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of like we didn't have that support system. We had to kind of to scrap and scrape to make it happen. So, you know, we're putting it together. But for us, we're like, hey, we want to provide you the support system that we didn't have.
Right.
And so you can carry this banner. And so to me, that's exciting. If you want to be a leader, if you want to inspire the world, I get excited about that. You know, when I was just out in Nigeria, I didn't realize the impact that Limo had. Like, I knew he was a leader. I knew his music was impactful. But to get out there and to see people like,
that jump was wild. They
just were like, man, it wasn't like fandom. It was like, we value the words that come out of your mouth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just even to add to that, I remember when we went to London, I mean, we to try to kickstart his music, we did a showcase that, you know, to kind of see, and the thing sold out in like 2-3 days. And like, it's like 1,000 people.
That inspires me. And so for me, it's like, well, of course I want to get behind that type of leadership. But it's also stewardship, man, and I don't take that lightly. I'm not just, I guess I'm excited about the talent, but there's a stewardship. There's something that's been created and crafted, and I want to be a good steward of it. You know, I don't want to be a gatekeeper like the Gen Xers were. They didn't want to It's kind of like they're like, this is ours. Just, you know, like get in it. And it's like I don't want to be that, but I want to say, hey, y'all, you can have it. Just steward it well, because there's a lot of people listening, a lot of people watching, a lot of people looking for hope. And and so, man, just, you know, follow the spirit and steward it well. You know.
Yeah. Ben, how do you feel about just the current state of the roster, Reach Records, looking back 20 years, where the artist roster stands right now? How do you feel about where the new artists are going, and what is something that, you know, that you can probably give to them, or just really any artist that's trying to make hip hop from a Christian worldview? What's something that they can like take away right now, you know what I'm saying, that aligns with the Reach Records vision and that just gives them a little bit of hope? Because I think it's so different than where you guys started. It just looks so different, and it's still kind of like jarring to be present day. So I just want to hear your thoughts on like the newer guard.
Yeah, I think going back to what Lecrae said a while ago, I forget which episode now, but it's the kind of authenticity of the faith that I'm seeing in the new roster. So it's not chasing success; it's this kind of renewed spiritual energy about seeing impact, chasing the Lord, using their music. You know, that's exciting, and I think if they can be in that space, they'll be all right.
Yeah.
You know, and we're excited to support and promote that all day long.
Yeah.
I love seeing where they're at personally. This is the most exciting thing.
Go crazy.
I'd be interested to hear you all's take on this. We were out with some guys last night, and one of the folks that we were with was another artist who's not signed to our label, but he is a friend sort of what we've done. He's a collaborator and a contributor. And one thing he talked about was sort of how when the vision and the commitment and all of those things are there, but sometimes there's just this reality or even this fear that right away you may not see the reward of kind of having the right heart and the right intentions. And it seems like that for a lot of people is a big one that if you maybe you don't wrestle with that in the beginning, but at some point along the way, there is just sort of this reality that the right choices or the right heart, the right intent may not always mean sort of the material or tangible things.
Yeah.
How would y'all sort of speak into that tension?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an error theologically to say if you follow God, you will be successful materially. I don't think that's a promise.
I want to retweet that, Ben. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, especially and for music, it goes the same way. So
yeah.
like, you know, you have to pick what your vision and mission are and follow that. And that's the success is the fulfillment of that or the taste of that.
Yeah.
So, you know, for people thinking about doing music or getting into it, you have to know where you're headed, or else you're just going to start heading somewhere, and you're not going to have any
Or
direction.
even pulled
you know?
somewhere. It's probably
Yes.
better.
Yeah,
You know.
and you'll be scrolling through social media, getting messages about what's important, and then that'll influence you, and you'll say, I got to do this, or I got to be like this person, or whatever. You know, you got to kind of pick your heroes and pick your mission, and know where you're headed.
Happens to me. It's happened to me so many times.
Yeah.
So many times.
Yeah, we don't say that like it's never happened to us.
I was gonna ask that
we say
because-
that we're in the fight too.
I was going to ask that because someone listening could say, well, that's really easy for you to say because it's worked out.
Right.
I mean, you've got this.
Yeah.
You got employees. You got these things, right? Like you're Lecrae, so it's easy for you to say that. But I'm curious, Lecrae, when you say it's happened to me, could you go into that a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we didn't know that Anomaly was going to do what it did. We were realizing it as it was approaching that place, but it was kind of like, oh, shoot, this is a #1 album. And then I just remember the internal tension of like, well, I had a #1 album. What do I do next? Right? Like, it created this new standard or new like ladder that I felt like I had to like stay on top of instead of just being like, man, God did that. And I'm not promised that again.
Right.
But it was like this internal fight of like, oh shoot, all right, it needs another Grammy needs to happen. Another like this is supposed to keep happening.
Yeah.
And it's not directly tied to my walk with the Lord. It's not directly tied to my faithfulness. And I think like that's just because there's people who are very unfaithful who win Grammys and get #1 albums.
I mean, it's a
like,
reality.
Right.
It's like, that's crazy. And there's people who love God and they're not having that level of success. And so I think I'm always challenged. The thing that challenges me the most is when Jesus tells the disciples that as great as John the Baptist is, the least in heaven is greater than him. And I'm like, this man is John the Baptist, and there's greater people.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like, all right, he did not end well. His story didn't end well. He got his head chopped off. He was like wondering, is this really? I'm in prison. And it's like, that's the mindset I think you gotta have. Like, God definitely gives us these principles of like, if you plant the seed, you water it, you get it some sunshine, it'll grow. But you're not promised to have the biggest orchard.
Well, I think that's a great way to wrap this first episode of the 116 Life. And also, I think it kind of, for those who are listening, you're probably like, man, I feel like there's so much more to this story. There's so much that didn't get covered, and you're right. And perhaps we can have y'all back to dig in some more and layer this thing out a little bit. But before we let you all go, again, it's been said that this marks the 20th year of Reach Records. Is there anything that you can share with our listeners that you're excited about, or that's maybe on the horizon for this 20 years?
I would just say we're talking about it right now. We're planning. We're scheming on what is a proper way to celebrate.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 decades.
Okay. How about you, Lecrae?
It's worth celebrating.
Yeah.
It's worth celebrating. It's worth putting time, effort, and energy into. So, you know, I would just say that. It's like we're not taking it lightly. Yeah.
So,
yeah. So.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us. My name is Marcus Hollinger. I'm your host. You can find me on social media at Marcus Hollinger or Marcus the Market on Twitter. Ace, how can people?
Oh, thank you, man. It's been a pleasure hosting with you, man. Ace Harris Music on all platforms, and thank you, Crae and Ben, man, for y'all leadership. And
Ace Harris Music, DM all your songs to him.
Yeah, DM your records to Ace.
or just DM Lecrae and he'll give you my email address.
Yeah. And of course, you can find Lecrae at Lecrae, right, on all platforms. And unfortunately, you cannot find Ben Washer.
You can find me in the shadows.
That's not unfortunately. That is a
Fortunately,
Yeah.
you cannot find Ben Washer online, but you can see his fingerprint. You can see his influence.
Email this man, benwasher@aol.com.
Yeah. Or is it Hotmail or NetSuite?
It's definitely
NetSuite. What is that?
Netscape,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, we'll let you all go. Thank you so much, man. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Lecrae. Thank you for to our listeners. And if you've been with us, my name is Marcus Hollinger, and this is the 116 Life Show. Thank you. We'll see you here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius XM Channel 154.